All right, so let's go ahead and talk about how can we delete the store items. And as I mentioned earlier on, I want to delete the store items by simply just swiping. So if I swipe from right to left on a bread or milk, it should get deleted. So we're going to use the same exact approach that we use in the to-do list application, where we can use something called a dismissible widget. So let's go back to our store items widget. And in the store items, if you look at the build items, it is simply returning a list tile. So this is where we can actually go ahead and use a dismissible widget. Now, in order to create a dismissible widget, we will obviously use dismissible widget. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and say return dismissible, and here it is. That's the dismissible widget. It does require a key and the child. So let's go ahead and do that. First of all, the key. Now, the key has to be something unique. So we already have something unique. We can use the store item dot store item ID. That is a unique ID for each document. So that's great. Next up is what will happen when you call on dismissed. So we're going to get something over here, which is a direction. We don't really care that much about direction. And the final thing that we need to pass in is the child. And that's the important part because we want to display our item, and we're going to use list tile, and we're going to set the title property to the store item dot name. So we can display the name of the store item like milk and eggs and bread. All right. Now, another thing that we should do is probably we should change the background color whenever you swipe something. And I'm going to go ahead and pass in an empty container with a color. And since we're deleting, red color should be a pretty good choice. Okay, let's go ahead and check it out. And there we go. You can see that I can actually swipe from right to left or left to right. And if I swipe, well, it deletes it, but it doesn't really delete it from the database. So this means if I go back and I go back to Albertsons, everything is still there. So we still need to actually delete it from the Firebase database. Now, since this is a store items widget, I don't want to perform any delete operation inside the store items widget. And the reason is that maybe I want to reuse this widget somewhere later on. So instead of doing a delete operation inside the store items widget, I'm going to go ahead and create a closure or a function that can be called whenever you are interested in deleting a store item. In that function, we're going to pass in the store item view model, and we will call that store item deleted. This is a really good way of making sure that your store items widget or any other widget is not tied up to just deleting a particular store item. I mean, I can reuse this widget anywhere I want because the delete operation is not tied up over here. We are going to pass the delete operation to the caller so that the caller can go ahead and delete the store item. Now, the first thing we're going to pass is the store items, and the second thing that we're passing is this.onStore selected, onStore item deleted. So this is a closure or a function that you need to pass whenever you're creating store items widget. Now, on dismissed, which is on line number 19, we can simply go ahead and call on store item deleted and pass in the store item that we want to delete. So you can see that we're not actually performing a delete operation or connecting with Firebase or anything like that over here. We're simply giving the store item that we want to delete to the caller, and then the caller can actually delete that item. Now let's go back to our store item list page, and right over here on line number 59, you can see that we are using our store items widget. Now we need to pass in the second argument, which is the on store item deleted. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to say on store item deleted. We are going to get the store item, which is the store item view model. And there we go. All right. So we get the store item that we want to delete, And this is the body where we can actually delete the item. Unfortunately, at this point, we don't really have any way to delete the item. And that will be the responsibility of the store item list view model. So let's go ahead and call store item list view model dot delete store item, which by the way does not exist, and pass in the store item that you want to delete. Now, this particular function doesn't really exist in store item list view model. So let's go ahead and create that. So let's go ahead and jump into store item list view model. Just like the save store item, we're going to create a function called delete store item, where you can pass in the store item view model. And it will be, let's go ahead and make sure that we are importing it also. So I'm going to say store item view model, this one. We will get the store item, which is a view model. And we can actually delete it. Now, this store item will also have a property called store item ID. Now, we don't really have to convert it to a store item model or anything like that. I can simply go ahead and say Firebase Firestore.collection. And in the collection, I can say I need to get the stores collection .doc. And inside the doc, I can get the actual document that we're talking about, which is store.storeid. And we can go ahead and say collection again. And now we're talking about the items collection. And in the items collection, we're going to get the document. And we can say store item dot store item ID and then dot delete. All right. Now, one of the things to realize over here is that the view model itself is not really deleting. It's the Firebase Firestore layer that is responsible for making the delete. You can, if you want, you can also say store item dot delete, and this should also work. But in cases you have to implement the delete function, and you have to make sure that when you are getting the store item, you get the document reference. So then you will be able to do that. Right now, this is what we have. We are using the delete store item, and we call the Firestore function delete to delete an actual item. All right. Let's go ahead and try to use this. So I'm going to go ahead and delete an item. Bread is gone. Eggs are gone. Now let's go back, and let's go back to Albertsons, and they're completely gone. If I go back over here and I go to HEB, I can add an item, or I can go ahead to Fiesta and I can remove fish. Now let's go back, and if I go to Fiesta, it's completely empty, nothing there. So we have successfully able to delete items. Now, one other thing that I want to do is I want to see how many items are there in each list. I mean, how many items are in Albertson? How many items are in HEB? We don't know. So it will be a good practice or a good exercise to add a number over here indicating how many items are there in each store. So let's go ahead and work on that to complete our app.